Hello and welcome to Deep Dive, the podcast that delves into the minds of entrepreneurs, creators, and other inspiring people to uncover their journeys towards finding joy and fulfillment at work and in life. My name is Ali, and in each episode I chat to my guests about the philosophies, strategies, and tools that have helped them along the path to living a life of happiness and meaning. This week I chatted to YouTuber, content creator, and now best-selling author Jade. In the episode we have a very productive conversation about finding balance within hustle culture, motivation, book writing, reshaping the definition of career, the law of attraction, opinions around toxic productivity, and much, much more.
You know, we love a side hustle, it's great, but not at the detriment of killing yourself in the process.
You'll leave this episode with techniques for living with intention, including Jade's #casual magic mantra, a ton of study techniques and productivity hacks, and a little more perspective about what it really means to live a productive and meaningful life and career. Jade, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
You're very
This
welcome.
is so strange because I have seen this setup for years and now here I am.
Here we are, yeah. Last time we spoke was about a year ago.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a year ago. On like a live stream. And so this is the first time we're meeting in the flesh.
I know.
Nice to
You
see
in 3D.
Me in 3D, yeah. And you've been kind of jet setting all around the world, like Korea and San Francisco and Berlin and stuff. And now you're in the UK for a few weeks.
Yeah.
We found time to do this thing.
Yeah.
How has all the traveling been?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I studied in South Korea last semester, which was amazing. Like, just so culturally different. But it was so nice being able to experience with all my uni friends as well.
Awesome. I feel like so some people watching this or listening to this might not know who you are. So I wonder if we do a quick kind of dive into your backstory, and then we'll come along to talking about this bad boy, the book. It's such a pretty book. It's like so nice. It's like so well done. But we'll gush about the book in a moment. How would you describe what you do if someone asks you, like you're at a party or something, and someone's like, "So what do you do? How do you answer that question?"
Oh, that's a tough question.
It's a tough question. Yeah.
Ooh, I say, so I make videos.
Yeah.
Just short answer, long answer. So I guess I started in a space of YouTube called StudyTube. I feel like most of you are very familiar with StudyTube in the productivity space. And kind of talking about my journey of GCSEs and A-levels, things that help me, study tips, productivity advice, all of that good stuff. And then I took a gap year and I vlogged my travels and my journey there. And I think especially as someone who was always, very into academics, it was a big leap out of my comfort zone in my gap year. So it was cool taking people along that journey. And now that I'm at university, I make study content about that, but it also follows just my life and living with intention and trying to inspire people to love themselves, go out of their comfort zone, that kind of thing.
That's a pretty good like pitch. Trying to inspire people to love themselves, get outside their comfort zone. Has it always been that? Like since you started the channel, or has the sort of the thing that you're trying to inspire people to do, has that evolved over time?
Yeah, I think when I first started just in the study space, it was a lot more niche. The goal was, just trying to help people feel less stressed about school. So whether that was equipping them with more tools, study techniques, trying to reduce the stress that you feel when you've got an exam coming up. But over time, it's definitely evolved to be more holistic about you as a human, as deep as that sounds. Like I like to talk about things like loneliness and all these struggles that we find, or perfectionism, fear of failure. Yeah, and I guess school is one element of that, but now it's more holistic.
How do you decide what you want to talk about?
Okay, so I have like a brain dump place on my Notion. Love Notion.
Same. So good.
And I have it on my phone, I have it on my laptop. And whenever I have a random idea, or I've read a book or listened to a podcast that just sparks something, I'll just drop it there. And then I think similar to you, I have a Kanban board and I sort of drag ideas that are like, okay, this is like an actual idea. And whenever I have a dull moment, I sit and sort of script it out. And then when I come to film, I sort of just select from these scripts I've already got.
How do you think about this balance between will this video perform well on the stats versus is this a video that I want to make personally?
Ooh, it's a tough one. Because I think as you start to do YouTube, you definitely know what will do better and worse. I start to think about value and impact in less just a numerical sense, but also thinking, okay, this might be a really niche topic, but if you watch this and you got a lot of value from it, like that should mean more to me than just, like 200K views. So it's kind of this balance between what I really like making, what I think will create the most impact, but not necessarily be the most like widely reaching, and then a few videos which get some new people in, I guess.
That's a pretty good way of looking at it. I've kind of been thinking similarly as well. Like we were having a content planning brainstorming session this morning, and there were a couple of videos where I was like, I know the video is not going to do well, but I know it's like a good video to make, and it's the sort of video that I want to make because it's like the right sort of impact. So it's cool that you're also thinking in those terms, because I feel like we've both been doing YouTube for like 4 and a bit years now.
Yes.
And so I feel like for me, definitely at the start, it was I just need to get videos out, and this is
for sure. Yeah, and like almost make a name for yourself too, like views that seem the most important.
No, exactly. And then I think for me, about a year or two, I was like, I became like numbers focused, thinking about the algorithm a lot. And now I'm kind of like in a stage where I'm trying not to think about the algorithm as much as possible.
Yeah. No, I think you've got a good thing going too, because you post so much content that like the perfectionism about it changes, right? You're just like, just post, you know?
It's got to be done.
Yeah. And especially if we're posting like 3 videos, then not all 3 of those videos needs to go viral, right? So then it allows you to play around more and just do stuff that makes you happy. But yeah.
So your strategy for YouTube in the early days is quite interesting. And I often use you as an example when I'm speaking to other kind of like wannabe YouTubers, where one approach to YouTube is just like make a load of stuff and you'll be really bad initially and you'll get good over your first 100 videos, and then you can start thinking about what to make stuff about. But when we last spoke, you said that your approach was a little bit different. Can you tell us a little bit about what was your approach to YouTube back in the day in 2017?
Yes. Okay, so I think I had this thing in my head similar to being a study person, was I need to study YouTube a bit before I just dive right in. And so I chose this arbitrary date in the future. It was 2 months down the line, February 17th, I still remember. And between now and February 17th, I'm going to teach myself how to edit. I'm going to learn a little bit about SEO optimization, all these things I knew nothing about. I'm going to go on YouTube on the creator side and do some learning there. Yeah. And I feel like that gave me a lot of confidence in not only the kind of content I wanted to make, but also felt like, okay, cool, like I can make videos that hopefully someone will want to watch. And obviously you do learn a lot through the journey, but my approach was sort of work that out beforehand. Yeah.
Okay. And how did that go in the early days?
Quite well. I think I got quite lucky though, because I found this niche of YouTube where like people clearly wanted it, but it wasn't really a thing yet. So my first few videos, obviously they got like 50 views, like literally nothing. But I was already getting comments from people saying that there was value here. And that was something that made me know I was on the right track. And then in April of that year, I went from 400 subscribers to 10,000 in a week, which is very rare. And I know. And it was like my embarrassing little channel that I had suddenly became like, oh wow, it's like she actually has a channel now.
So from 400 subscribers to 10,000 in a week.
Yeah. And
what did that feel like?
Oh my God. It was insane because I was on the Easter holidays and I was in year 12. So, you know, I go on to the Easter holidays and I have an embarrassing channel and then I come back and all of a sudden people just know about it, my embarrassing channel. And I had my chemistry teacher came up to me and she was like, we've all watched your videos in the staff room. And that was like a very real moment for me. Wow. Being like, wow, like, God, people are seeing me in my bedroom at home, like even my teachers. Yeah, it was very weird, like hard to process for sure. And
did you have any sort of background in video stuff, or was it like completely self-taught?
No, completely self-taught. But that's the beauty of YouTube, is you can learn from YouTube.
Yeah, this thing about embarrassing channel, like how did you? Because even today, it's kind of cringy having a YouTube channel, especially in the early days.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we idolize YouTube.
No, exactly. Yeah. And like I've spoken to so many people who spend a lot of time on TikTok. And if I've asked them, have you thought about creating a TikTok? Oh gosh, I could never do that. And if I dig down, it's often embarrassment and cringe are the two words that come up. But you refer to your channel as like your embarrassing channel, but you did it anyway. So like how were you thinking about like the embarrassment cringe factor of having a YouTube channel early on?
Okay, so I have a theory that if you hide it, it gives people a reason to make fun of it. Because it's like, if you're trying to hide it, then clearly there's something embarrassing about it. So I did the opposite. I remember I put on my Instagram page, which was just full of like friends and family, oh, hey guys, I'm starting this YouTube channel and I'm really proud of it. And that sort of means people can't touch it now because I'm claiming that I'm proud of it.
Yes, and it would be mean for them to then be like, make fun of it.
Yep. And so I think the more that you can own it, even if secretly you feel embarrassed, the less people can say anything negative about it.
Okay, so you just pretend like you're totally cool with it and like hashtag blessed and hashtag proud and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, hashtag fake it till you make it.
Amazing. Did you get much kind of hate back in the day?
Oh my God, do you know what my first ever piece of hate was? It sounds so stupid now that I say it. So someone said that I look like a horse. Which
I was going to end differently.
You know, like, oh, like, you have such a horse face, which would have been fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, receiving that once. But then they started commenting on every single video, like, oh, hey, horse face, like, oh, your nose just looks like a horse. And it actually really got to me. And I remember I would, like, look at myself in the mirror and be like, do I look like a horse? Yeah, so I think, you know, when you're not accustomed to receiving online hate, it's like anything mildly negative is really new and weird. But yeah, I think over time you numb yourself to it a little bit.
Yeah, so it's 4 years on now. Your channel is like absolutely enormous and like ridiculously successful by any sort of reasonable metrics. How do you think about the hate aspect of it these days? Like, do you get much hate these days?
I think it like fluctuates.
Yeah.
But of course it's always going to be there. It's been there since the start. Less horse face comments now. Yeah. I think part of it is like just thinking about all the positive people that you're impacting and trying to like remember in those moments where you get, you know, 10 comments which are hateful, that you have 1,000 of people whose life you changed, whose day you changed, who you made smile, or any of these moments. Yeah, like that stuff is more important. But then the brain just, I don't know, it's not great, is it? Because it's so funny, you can get 1,000 of those comments and you don't remember them like you do that one bad one. So I think it depends on my own mental state. Like if I'm really stressed at uni or other things are going on that are bad in my life, I find it affects me a lot more. Whereas if I'm in a really good state, then it's like, well, shut up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of the same for me. I think if for the first few years, I didn't really get many hate comments at all. And when I would, it would just kind of be funny. But recently, there have been like quite a few like very specifically targeted ones where I sort of feel like it is starting to affect me, and it is often related to what else is going on in life.
Yeah,
at the time.
For sure. Do you tend to reply to them or block them or leave it? What's your strategy?
I would never reply to them. Like occasionally, I would like heart them and stick them on my Instagram story.
Oh yeah, that's quite funny.
If they're funny,
yeah.
But the ones that are like really sort of close to the bone, I tend to just kind of look at it and then I'll ignore it. I was speaking to a few other YouTuber friends who get far more hate comments on like tech videos and things, and they just delete them and like hide the user from their channel, so it, like the user can still comment and still sees their own comments, but no one else sees their comments. And I like initially I thought that that's a bit of a weird strategy. Like, why wouldn't you want the hate comments on the videos? But then these guys were saying that like 99.99% of the comments are really nice, and most people will scroll down the comments and see what's going on. And like, even if someone wasn't thinking something negative about a video, if they see a negative comment about you or about the video, it will color their impression of you and the channel and stuff.
It's like giving someone a new lens to see you through.
And so like their strategy is like, if you notice anything negative, just like delete it. And I've been doing that recently, and it's like, whoa.
Is it freeing?
It's freeing. I feel like I can just delete this comment and then I don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's so cool. It's like you're taking the power back. You're like, this is my comment section.
Yeah,
this is
I can do what I want.
Yeah, you can do what you want. That's awesome.
So we're 4 years in, and while at university, while doing YouTube, you found the time to write and publish a book.
Yes.
How did this start?
Yeah. Okay. God, should we go back to the beginning?
Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay,
was it
cool.
August 2020?
Yes, although before that, I'd always wanted to write a book in this space. Actually, the first job I ever wanted to have was to be an author, but of fiction. So I've always loved writing. I wrote Wattpad fan fiction.
Oh, hello.
I was that person.
Link in the video description.
No, thank you. Oh my God, it's so tragic. I read it back the other day. It's embarrassing.
What were we writing fan fiction about?
If I say it, I know people are going to go find it, but it was a cross between the Divergent and the Hunger Games.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but with like more saucy elements.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Same characters?
Yeah, no, some.
Okay.
It was like a follow-on. It was like the kids of some of the characters.
Oh, interesting. And I guess there was some kind of love story in there somewhere.
Of course, you've got to have some romance. Okay. I had no romance in my life at like 14, so it's just like I would live it through my fan fiction. And, you know, I'd name all the characters after my friends in real life. And then this is just like the most indirect, non-controversial way of dealing with friendships. But if something was going wrong in a relationship in real life, I could just kill off a character with their name, you know?
So were you writing like a series of fan fiction?
No, it was just one really long fan fiction of like 100,000 words.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's was like every morning before school, I would just write another chapter for all my fans.
And people were reading this stuff when you were 14?
Yeah.
How does that work? Like I have zero experience with the Wattpad side of the world at all.
You missed out.
Yeah.
No, Wattpad is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a social media of books.
Okay.
So you decide to create a story, and then you like publish a chapter, and then you can just keep publishing them, and people can follow along the story and be like, oh hey, like waiting for the next chapter. Wow, this chapter was amazing. And then you can say, oh, every Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm going to upload the next chapter.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you can kind of comment and also influence the story, I guess, because the author is going to continually write it while reading comments.
And is this Wattpad stuff still going on? Is it still
Of
a thing?
course.
Oh, wow.
It's alive and thriving.
I need to check this website out. This sounds great. Okay, so you started with a saucy crossover fan fiction at the age of 14.
Yeah.
And and now we've got
And now the only study guide.
the only study guide you'll ever need.
No source, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, so when I had the whole YouTube success, I guess you could call it, in StudyTube, I was like, okay, cool, wow, people are clearly interested in this.
Yeah.
And I know that I would have loved a book like this that discussed not just really good study tips of how to succeed, but also the more holistic elements of being a student. So all the perfectionism, fear of failure discussion that I loved talking about on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I realized that in my gap year, naturally, as my life would go on, I wouldn't be talking about this stuff all the time. So I really wanted an evergreen medium where I could dig into it with all the meat that you can't always get into in a YouTube video, and it could live on beyond me. Something where, you don't have to go and watch all these bite-sized videos. You can just, like, everything I've ever said online pretty much is in here and more. Yeah.
Okay. So you started with a fan fiction, then you decided you wanted to write the book. How did the book actually end up manifesting itself?
Yes. So in my gap year, I started writing random passages of this potential book idea I had in my mind.
Okay.
But I never really committed to making it an actual thing. It was just an idea I had. I remember writing in my journal, like, I'd love to write a book on this. But sort of, I went to university, life takes over, I have to write all these essays, too stressful, I'm not going to write a book. And then last summer, during lockdown, I was approached by a publisher, and they were pitching a book almost exactly like the one I'd written down in my journal in my gap year. And it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like a synchronicity, this moment of, if I don't write this now, I'm probably never going to write it.
Yeah.
And I know that I would have wanted to read something like this. So I said yes, knowing that it was going to be incredibly stressful to write this during my university semester, because the aim was to have it to be published in August of this year.
So you got it. So it basically like 12 months ago-ish, the publisher approached you, and you just bashed it out in that time. That's pretty incredible, because for a bit of context, around the same time, a publisher approached me to write a book, and I'm still dabbling with the proposal, and like it's going to be due to be released in like 2 years from now, and I feel like such an absolute waste man.
No, we need to dig into this. Tell me about your proposal, your fears about it, because I feel like the book for you, like, I remember watching your video where you sort of gave up on the book.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the time that I was like crying over how much I was struggling to write my own book. And I felt so validated in your video. And I honestly wanted to give up to it at that point. But I could relate to everything you were saying about, your fears of having an audience and the expectations for it to be really good. And then your personal pressure of wanting it to be like a bestseller.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
Yours has become a bestseller now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I saw it was a title of your...
Mad.
Yeah. That's really cool.
It's really cool and unexpected, and I wasn't going for that.
Okay. So it's kind of nice when it happens.
Yes.
Were you actually not going for that? Or were you like sort of going for it and like trying to convince yourself you want? Because that's sort of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think at the start, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, who doesn't want a bestseller? Yeah. And I think the beauty of having a platform is you feel like it could be within reach too. Within reach, yeah. But I think during the writing process, every time I had to sit down to write, I was just filled with so much dread. Yeah. Because every single word had to be a best-selling word. Yeah. And like every paragraph I'd read back and be like, but is this a best-selling paragraph, And I'm comparing it to all these incredible books like Atomic Habits or, books that have changed my life and thinking, okay, but this is nowhere near that standard.
Yeah.
So I think in order for me to finish it, I had to reshape my narrative around
Okay.
what I wanted my book to be in order to finish it.
And what did you change that? What was that narrative in the end?
Okay. Kind of how I deal with perfectionism in general is firstly finish it.
Yeah.
Like, don't overthink every single word you're writing. Just get it down. You can edit it in the process.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think actually, maybe the first time I heard this was you telling me, was there are no unique messages. There are only unique messengers. And that's always stuck with me. The fact that, this doesn't have to totally reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
It's already being reinvented through the fact that it's coming through my mouth, I guess, through my experiences, and sort of finding value in whatever I have to share. And clearly there's something valuable about it because I've been able to build a platform off of talking about these things. Yeah. So that was also this confidence boost of being like, Jade, you have something to share. Yeah. It just doesn't always feel like it's that valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I suppose when you're writing a book, it's like, this is a book, and a book feels like a big deal.
Yeah.
A YouTube video doesn't feel like a big deal.
Of course.
Although, like, weirdly, your YouTube videos will get more views than almost anyone will ever sell any copies of a book for.
Yeah.
So it's weird that, like, you can get 1 million views on a YouTube video. If you had 1 million copies of a book sold, you'd be like kind of world famous, like sure. Atomic Habits, James Clear level, like life-changing. But there's something about writing a book that just makes it feel like a really big deal. And I don't know if you have this, but like I like basically every week I need to be told that my experience is valuable. What I have to say does have worth, because I always think like, why the hell would anyone give a toss what I have to say about anything? How did you kind of go about like approach that that side of it?
I feel like I still struggle with that. Even the thought of like talking about the book and marketing the book, even though like I'm so proud of this thing, there's still a part of me that doesn't like talking about the book because I'm still scared that like it's not good enough.
Okay.
Like the imposter syndrome, I don't think it ever goes away.
Yeah.
Because you're not an author, you're just a person, right? A person who's written a book. But that is what an author is.
Yes.
And that's very much how I feel. I feel like I'm a person who's written a book, not an author. Yeah. So I don't know. I think just support, like having good people around you, like you said, being told that your work is good. Like I have an editor and I forced her to have a call with me every week. And I forced her to like go through my work with me and also just kind of like validate that it was decent. Yeah. And I also sent it out to like teachers and students and got feedback from people who I guess said it was all right. And then I was like, wow, okay, then I might as well keep going. I think that's helpful.
Yeah. So there's a thing called London Writers Salon, which is like, they have like in-person events, but they also have like 4 times a day Writers Hour, which is like a Zoom co-working session. Ooh. And so I joined this for the first time like last week, and there were like 300 people there. And it was people from all around the world joining at different time zones. And it was facilitated by this person who is an author. And they had like 5 minutes at the start where...
Is it free?
Oh, it's free. Yeah, you just join. It's like a Zoom call. It was like a really good poem about combating imposter syndrome as an author. And
share it with us.
The problem is I can't remember where I saved it. This is the issue with having like a zillion note-taking apps. It was this. This guy called Garth Greenwell, who's apparently an author. And in this like London writers group, every time they do a session, they share words of wisdom to keep you going as a writer.
We love that.
So this is the quote. I remember thinking as an MFA student that the anxiety I felt would lessen when I got an agent. Then when I sold a book. Then when I got my edits. Then when the book was published. Then when I got my first review. Then when I got a particular review. Then when I finished a second book. Then when I sold a second book, etc. At each point, the content changes, but the anxiety remains the same. The only time the anxiety lessens is when I'm bent over my notebook, doing the only work that matters, trying to write a decent sentence, then another decent sentence, then one good page and another. I was like, this is like really nice and wholesome, and like extremely relatable.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to take a very quick break to introduce our sponsor for this episode, and that is Brilliant. I've been using Brilliant for the last 2+ years. They're a fantastic platform for learning maths, science, and computer science with engaging and interactive online courses. And the great thing about Brilliant is that they really teach stuff from a very first principles-based approach. It's almost like the way that we were taught in places like Oxford and Cambridge, where you learn a concept and then you apply the concept to an interesting problem, rather than just being spoon-fed stuff like we initially learned in school. My favorite courses on Brilliant are the computer science ones. As some of you guys might know, I was torn between applying to medicine and computer science. I went for medicine in the end, but I always had an affinity to computer science, and taking the courses on Brilliant, like their introduction to algorithms and their introduction to Python, really helped me get more of a grasp of of computer science than I've ever had before. It's also great for learning how to code, which is an incredibly useful skill to have, especially if you want to start a business. And I attribute like 98% of my business success to the fact that I learned how to code when I was in secondary school. So if you want to check out the courses on math science and computer science, then head over to brilliant.org/deep dive. And the first 200 people to sign up with that link will get 20% off the annual premium subscription. So thank you, Brilliant, for sponsoring this episode.
Wait, so where are you at? So have you made multiple proposals, but none of them feel good enough? I remember you writing like a manuscript too.
Yeah, so we're on the third version of the proposal, and this now feels good. So it's taken 12 months to get to the point where finally the proposal feels good. And my agent and editor said the soft deadline is the end of this week. And so I'm going to do a little sesh tonight doing chapter outlines.
Oh,
I've got a call with one of my helpers tonight at 9 p.m. doing some more like chapter outline stuff. And then we need to figure out the sample chapter.
Wow.
But like the weird thing about a proposal, as you know, is you've got to pretend like you've written the thing before you've actually written the thing. Like what the hell?
Yeah, say why it's useful and all the value of it and the structure, the whole arc. Yeah, it's crazy.
How did you go about structuring yours? What was the process?
Yeah, I think what was helpful for me is I already kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do in my gap year. Yeah. So I'd already written some passages and sort of had these chapter outlines, but that was when I'd only done school. So now I sort of had this more life experience from university and there were things I wanted to add. So I sort of just blurted out everything that I would want to include. And then sort of just found a structure. For me, it wasn't actually too hard to structure it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm overthinking that quite a lot.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Just write it. And then
what were you like Google Docs or Notion? Like what was your
Notion? Yeah.
And you can just like drag bits around and be like, that goes
exactly.
there, that goes there. That sounds reasonable. Okay.
Notebook and Notion.
Okay. I think I'm just overthinking this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, I need to have the perfect structure.
Yeah.
And everyone keeps telling me that it's just a proposal. It can always change.
Okay, I'm interested as well because I feel like you also have people involved in your book, right? Helping you out with it. Do you think that adds pressure or do you think it's helpful?
I think it's helpful. But one thing I've realized over the last 12 months is that I can't lean too much on other people because really like no one knows what they're doing. And we're all just making it up as we go along. And I've kind of realized this, that I think I was hoping that I'd be able to like hire someone who's like worked on books before and just like they would produce something magical. And what it took me the last year to realize is that, and something of quite a few of them have said about themselves is like, look, if we could write a book, we would be writing books. We would be helping authors write books. Yeah. And so really it comes from the author and they just kind of mold it into shape. And the other thing is that like that thing of you, that you said that, you know, you've built an audience through sharing the stuff that's authentic to you. Yeah. And so that should probably be the stuff that's in the book rather than thinking that someone else could like, I don't know, mine your brain for all the stuff and turn it into this magical, like life-changing thing. Yeah. So it's really nice having people helping to sort of sanity check me. And it's really like validating when I think I've got the perfect structure and I share it with someone and they're like, oh, this is really good.
I bet that feels amazing.
That feels amazing. It's like, oh, thank God it's not just in my head.
It's been a year, you know?
But yeah, I think if I didn't have anyone helping with it and I just did it myself, I suspect I probably would have got to a similar point sooner and just not like overthought absolutely everything. Because there is a point of like too many cooks potentially spoiling the broth sometimes. Did you have that at all?
So I purposely like didn't get too many people involved because I feel like with me, I feel judged if I'm sharing it all the ideas with too many people because sometimes I have to like have an idea and then flesh it out and write it a bit first before I want to share it. So I feel like if I was like, I don't know, share an idea with someone in a Zoom call and then it was shot down straight away, I wouldn't even give it any life or flesh that thing out that I thought could be good. So for me, it was really helpful just having an editor, you know, one person, she's like deep in my book, understands me, understands the vision. I talk with her once a week, but not like overdoing it with the overthinking. But then that's just like me as a person.
Interesting. So there's this book I'm reading called, I think it's called Radical Candor, and they talk. It's sort of a sort of management businessy type book. And the author tells a lot of stories from her time working at Google and working at Apple, and around this idea of creativity. And she says that the mistake a lot of people make is that they don't realize that when something is just an idea, it's actually very, very fragile, and you don't want anyone to shoot that idea down while it's fragile. You want them to help build it up while it's fragile. And then once it's built up, at that point, you want people to start trying to poke holes in it. And that was like a real revelation for me, because I think I do the thing of I have a half-baked idea.
Yeah.
And then I share it with someone and they shoot it down, and then I think, okay, well, that's a stupid
Yeah.
idea.
And then you don't flesh it out.
I don't flesh it out. But I'm like obviously a half-baked idea is very easy to shoot down. I need to flesh it out, or help get people to help flesh it out before then, presenting it to the world for it to be shot down. Yeah. If that makes sense.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've learned a lot about yourself through the process of trying to write this book?
Yeah, I do. I'm curious, like, what have you learned about yourself? And then I'll share mine so far.
Firstly, I think I procrastinate so much more when I have like loads of expectations about something. I want this to be good. I want it to change people's lives. I want it to be a bestseller. All of these unnecessary things that I'm applying to something that, isn't even there yet, hasn't even been written. Yes. And secondly, I really need like a solid space, like a writing routine around a place.
Oh, what does that look like for you?
Like for me, I had a cafe in Seoul that when I went there, I would never bring other people. I wouldn't like go on my phone. Like I had complete sanctity of space over this little cafe, and I would go there and I would just sit for like 3 hours and write and then leave. And like as soon as I stopped writing, I would leave. And for me, that was like the most productive time of writing the book at any point, was when I had developed that place. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I feel like that's what I'm missing in my life right now. Because I'm trying to do the writing kind of here and there, sometimes at home, sometimes at like WeWork, but it's always in the middle of other things. And I never have like a clear 3-hour block to just write stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like you, I guess, have many things on your mind, right? You have YouTube, you have like other work,
it's kind of the same
other
as you,
stuff.
YouTube, university, like everything.
But that's why, you should have that. Because like I was doing uni, like I had a uni essay due all the time. I had like 2 essays a week sometimes, the social life, the YouTube, everything. That if I didn't have the separation, I don't think I would have written anything.
What was your what was your routine like? Was it like writing every day, writing like?
I couldn't write every day because uni was just like too much. I'd write like a few times a week, but based off of my schedule.
Okay.
So I would block off in my calendar like 3 hours to go to that cafe. And I would just sit there and write.
Okay, I'm going to start doing this from like today, just blocking out time to write.
Yeah,
just haven't really been doing that. And it's like surprisingly hard to make progress in like 20-minute to half an hour segments here and there.
For sure.
Like you need that like uninterrupted time to just think and get stuff down.
I actually feel like the first 20 minutes is like, I just write crap, Like you just sit there to write to get yourself into the flow. But the good stuff doesn't come until like an hour in. Yeah, and then you have like a really good hour session of writing after that.
And did you find as well that like writing stuff down helps you think stuff through?
Oh, for sure. Because I also find that I get off topic in my mind if I'm not writing it down. So it's like, okay, cool. I know I want to talk about X, like this thing in my head. So let me like think about it. Let me try and develop it in my head. It's not going to happen. If anything, I'm going to start overthinking something else or... Yeah, so definitely thinking through on paper is the best. And then you can read back this horrible thing you've written and turn it into something good.
Nice. So it sounds like, so from August through to March, you were sort of chipping away at writing this thing.
Yes. Yeah.
What happens then in the book publishing / editing process? Like, what does it look like?
Oh my God, it's fascinating. There's so many parts to publishing that I just didn't even know existed. So it went through my editor, then it went through a different editor, then it went through a different editor, and then there's someone called a proofreader who literally just goes and like checks for grammar mistakes. And what the editors do is they just check for kind of grammar mistakes too, but just like will reword sentences if they sound horrible. And the beauty of that process is it's really collaborative. So like everything's like, sent back to me. Do you like how I've reworded this sentence? And I'm like, no, like, let's change that back. But they don't do any major changes. It's just like small things. And then after it's been sent through a proofreader, it gets typeset, which is fancy, it's just someone's whole job to put the words on a page. So then all of the like production side comes in. They do the illustrations. I got to collaborate with the designer on that. And then the cover was happening the whole time while I was writing.
And how did they pick the title?
Oh, the title.
The only study guide you'll ever need.
Yes, this is probably the most pretentious title of all time. Can you tell I didn't pick it? I mean, it kind of says what it does on the tin, with like a bit of pretentious added in. Yeah, I think just in the world of studying, you need something that's like, bam, just is obvious what it is. I came up with loads of metaphorical names which were not half as good.
Like what?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I had this like Notion page where I would just like brain dump things, but the publisher came up with this and I don't mind it.
How did you feel about the pretentiousness of it? Was it like a...
Of course. Are you kidding? I think it's the same imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah.
As if little old me has decided that I've written the only study guide you will ever need, Ali. It's very pretentious, but I don't know. I think in the world of sales and marketing, it's also great.
It's like it's a very good title. Yeah. But it's weird. I think it was... Who was I speaking to? Who I think Sheen mentioned to me that maybe you mentioned in one of the videos or something that you thought this was pretentious. Oh no, when we were doing research for this interview, there was a bit where you said that this title was pretentious, and that was like I never once thought of it as a pretentious title until I heard you mention it, and I was like, oh okay, oh yeah, I can see how that's a thing.
Yeah,
and I imagine this is so much of like, stuff is a bigger deal in our heads than it is to anyone else. And like the only study guide, yeah, fair play, good title.
So interesting.
Like I'm not thinking at all that like, who the hell is Jade Bowler to tell me is the only study guide I'll ever need? But that's probably what's going on in your head.
That's why I think every time someone looks at this book, like who does she think she is? Yeah. No, I had to have so many hype up chats from friends about the title of this book after it got approved.
So let's talk about some of these chapters. It's also like very rich. It's just a nice book.
Thank
it's like
you.
It's got like illustrations. It's got like, I don't know. Can
I really love the design.
Angle.
Ooh.
It's like really pretty with like illustrate. Like,
aww.
How did you decide what you wanted the illustrations to be, and like, were you imagining it being like a pretty looking book from the start, or more like an Atomic Habits-esque, like lots of text type book, or what?
This is definitely prettier than I thought it would be. Definitely more text heavy because you have some beautifully like illustrated. Have you seen Women Don't Owe You Pretty?
No.
So great book. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's become a trend in the book space to have like Instagrammable books with
this
more.
is very Instagrammable.
Oh, thank you. But those are even more like illustration heavy inside. Right. So I wanted to have an element of that's something you can just snap some photos for Instagram of the diagrams and get something out of them, and also appeal to like visual learners who might not have the time to read everything.
You're controversial, visual learners.
I know, true. Dude, does that even exist? Is everyone? That's true. People who say that they are visual learners.
Sure.
And I wanted to have this put it in practice section as well.
Really nice.
So it's like, if I can't be bothered to read the whole chapter, I can just skim through the summary of the most important points. I also wanted to break it up by having contributions from other people, showing their experiences. But yeah, I knew it was going to be text heavy.
So chapter 1, motivation.
Yes.
What's the sort of the thesis of what's your thesis about motivation?
Oh my god, big questions, Ali. Okay, so in this chapter, the first line I think captures it. When I got a D in my first A-level chemistry test, I convinced myself that it was bad luck. And I sort of first dig into sort of failure and how that's really unmotivational, and then breaking down what kept me trying after I had this horrible experience with a teacher that was just not good. And in my chemistry class, it went from like 28 students to 9 students the next year because of issues with the school. And that was a point in my life where I really felt like giving up on this subject, and how I eventually found motivation. I'm also conscious that you believe motivation is a myth.
That's just a title of a video, but I don't actually believe motivation's a myth.
So I sort of dig into this idea of what gets you motivated is having a why of some kind.
Okay.
Whether that is, a long-term goal of somewhere you want to end up. You can have like an extrinsic source of motivation, which is something like a grade you're trying to achieve or university you're trying to get into, but also trying to find this intrinsic sense of why is it you're studying? Like, what is interesting about these subjects? Even if you can't find anything naturally, you need to convince yourself that there's something interesting about this. Like, these maths problems are the basis of so many incredible things that maybe you are interested in.
Okay.
And then, using that motivation to then put the systems into your life, which I then dig into for the rest of the book.
Okay. So it sounds like if something is like dull on the surface, you're saying that we can like essentially talk ourselves into thinking it's less dull.
Yes.
And that gives sort of the spark of motivation, which then once you build the systems, then you can stop relying on motivation. Like how does it work?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
So I believe that motivation is kind of just about the narrative you tell yourself about most things in life, right? The idea of being demotivated is you not wanting to do something and you don't want to do it for a reason of what you're telling yourself about that thing. So if you're not motivated to study, why is that? Do you not like the subject? Why don't you like the subject? I break it down into things like conformity. Is it because your peers around you don't like that subject? Is it the expectations people are placing on you? For example, you have a teacher who believes that you're just not going to succeed, and you've told yourself that you are not going to succeed in this subject, and asking yourself these series of questions that break down why it is you're not trying, and then trying to find motivation through reshaping that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
I say it so much better in the book. I feel like I am just rambling in this.
Yeah, I guess the book has been through like 18 levels of editing and all that kind of stuff.
I can't say it in the same way, but...
So we've got chapter 2, the academic system, chapter 3, how we learn. And I noticed that there was a cheeky forgetting curve somewhere in there.
Yes, I think there's also, I could be wrong, but a little contribution from someone.
Yes, I was flicking through this and I saw forgetting curve, and then I stumbled across my contribution like a little bit later. What is the forgetting curve? For those of us unfamiliar.
I feel like everyone on your channel is very familiar with the forgetting curve. Okay, so there's a guy called Herman Ebbinghaus. He's a good friend of ours.
Yep.
And he basically did loads of studies about human memory and found out that, when you're learning something, after a certain period of time of not reviewing it, your memory decays exponentially. But if you review the same bit of information at regularly increasing intervals, you can boost your attention back up to that 100%, which is why we have something called space repetition, which I feel like is like, I don't know, as your brand, half your brand, Ali, is space repetition. Yes, which is the idea that you review information at these regular intervals to combat that forgetting curve.
How do you personally recommend / do you personally organize your like space repetition timetable? Like how do you do it?
Okay, so I use Anki, which is like a flashcard service that effectively does it for you. I also use Quizlet, but I actually have a spreadsheet, which is great. I also use, I have Notion for like my timetabling of my life, but I also have a spreadsheet for all my different university chapters, and then I use Anki.
Okay. So do you have stuff that is like not, because Anki is very sort of like one bite at a time type stuff. What about more like conceptual stuff or broad picture stuff, or, what is this person's theory about this thing, which would actually span like 2 pages rather than one flashcard? Yeah. Do you use space repetition for that stuff as well? How do you do it?
Yes. So I combine it with other techniques. I don't know if you've heard of blurting. This is something.
No, I haven't. What is blurting?
Oh, this is honestly my favorite technique.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of active recall, but it's a technique called blurting, where you choose a chapter or a concept or a process that you're trying to learn. You give yourself a few prompt words from that chapter, and then effectively you just blurt out everything you can remember from this process or topic or chapter. And then you can set a timer, you can do how much you can do in 5 minutes, and then you compare it back to your notes, and then with a highlighter fill in everything that you didn't know or that you've forgotten, and then you compare that back. And I think this is something you also talk about, which is, it's not about shoving information into you, it is about forcing it out, and that's how you learn, and then going back and noticing what you don't know. And so I use space repetition in how often I blurt.
Nice. Yeah, the whole it's so counterintuitive in a way, where we just assume that the way we learn stuff is by putting information in, but we actually learn stuff by taking information out. Yeah. That's weird.
Mad. Yeah. And completely contradicts the whole I'm just going to sit and highlight a textbook and read, because also it's strange because you feel the most intelligent when you're reading the textbook, right?
Yeah.
Because all the information is there, I agree with that. That diagram is correct.
It makes sense.
Whereas you feel so stupid when you're trying to drag information from your brain and nothing's coming out, but that's, when you're learning the most.
When you're actually learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine we've got all of the whole active recall and stuff in here. I was intrigued by productivity hacks, chapter 6. this is sort of up my street. Like, what would you say are the key productivity hacks that you found helpful?
Yes. So I kind of, after having read so many different productivity books, I wanted to break it down to the most simple that a student who doesn't have time to read 1,000 things on productivity could just easily implement. And a lot of this is based off of the Pomodoro technique. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this if you're into the productivity space. But the idea that, you set a timer, you choose one task, focus on it for 25 minutes, and then give yourself a break. I think that's just an amazing one to beat procrastination, to be more productive. And also, I think I quoted one of your productivity equations.
You have actually, yeah. I was just looking through this chapter and I saw that.
But I think I also, I added something.
You've added stuff to it. Yeah, it's really interesting. So what's your productivity equation? Okay,
so my productivity equation is, maybe we'll go back to the classic one.
Yeah, sure.
So the classic productivity equation is obviously output over time. So in a factory, you're trying to produce the most products in the least amount of time or using the least amount of resources. And what I added to this is if you multiply it by focus and forethought, I think that's how you are the most productive. And then the whole chapter is based off of around this equation. So the idea that if you can reach this level of deep focus, whether that is having sanctity of space, like for me going to my cafe, deciding actively that I'm going to turn off my phone and go into this place, I'm going to be far more productive, and the work is going to be more meaningful. And then forethought is the idea of planning, having your Notion page, your timetable, and any planning that you do will make that time much more productive. And then here's where I borrowed from you, fun. Because Ali, we've got to make life fun.
Got to make life fun, yeah.
Yes.
That's it's a really interesting model. So productivity equals output over time multiplied by focus, multiplied by forethought, multiplied by fun.
3 Fs.
3 Fs, that's really good.
Yes, and then the chapter goes through focus, forethought, fun.
What forethought feels a bit shoehorny into the 3 Fs.
I was gonna say,
but it's got to be done.
It's
memorable. Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, no, I'm doing this all the time in my book. It's like I've got a word for it, but I need 3 Cs or 3 Fs or 3 Rs or something. It's a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like.
But I'm gonna remember the 3 Fs now. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. And I suppose once you've got an equation, you can then target different bits of the equation to become more productive. If that's the thing you care about. How do you feel about toxic productivity? It's a word that gets bandied about quite a lot. Yeah. No,
it's a really good thing. This is what I talk about in, I'd say, the second half of my book. All the stuff about mental health, perfectionism, hustle culture, all of that falls into toxic productivity. I think it's people misusing the idea of productive. Productivity is spending your time well.
Yeah, I agree.
That's literally the definition, right? And that doesn't mean sitting and revising for 10 hours, which is what productivity has often come to be associated with. And I think if you reshape it to view productivity as just spending your time well, whether that's for enjoyment, resetting, self-care, then there almost isn't a toxic productivity. It's just you're not spending your time in the best ways for you. And I think it is so important for young people to take more time for things like mindfulness, where you totally switch off from the internet. And in the chapters talking about exam season, you're kind of like a warrior going into a battle. And when a warrior is when a soldier is going into battle, they're thinking about their diet, they're thinking about the levels of rest they get, a good night's sleep before all of these things. And when you're in exam season, you start to do the same. And one of the most productive things you can do is looking after yourself. So
yeah, I sometimes get messages from people being like, how do I study when I'm tired? Or how do you pull an all-nighter? I'm just like, don't do it. Don't study when you're tired. Don't pull an all-nighter. There's almost nothing to be gained from doing that stuff.
What are your thoughts on toxic productivity?
Basically the same as yours, to be honest. I think the way I usually... So I often get accused of sort of peddling toxic productivity stuff, as do a bunch of other... I don't think you do, because you're very on the sort of self-love type thing. But if you're of our other YouTuber friends...
I used to a lot.
Did you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
StudyTube.
StudyTube. It's 14 hours study with me, and it's all that kind of stuff. And to me, it's just a bit baffling, because to me, productivity is doing the things that matter to us.
Yeah.
And so to me, hanging out with my friends, I would consider productive. And playing Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation if I'm taking a break, I would consider productive.
Yeah.
But I think it's too easy. It's very easy for people to look at a headline, 14-hour study with me or something like that, not actually watch the video and realize that it's actually 4 hours of work and the rest of it was just banter.
And part of, the advertising around this video for it to do well on YouTube has to be something sometimes a little bit extreme.
Exactly.
The only study guide you ever need.
Yeah.
Come on. It doesn't mean I think it's the only study guide you'll ever need. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of artistic license in the titling of this stuff. But yeah, my theory, I mean, I fully agree with your perspective on this, doing more of the things that matter to us, whether that is taking a break, hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, and doing things that are meaningful to us, so the forethought bit, and having fun along the way.
Exactly.
And like, if you do more of that, like, I don't know how that can be toxic, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, or even focus. For me, the idea of that is when you're relaxing, you shouldn't be focusing on all the things that you have to do and, like, oh, I should be revising right now. Like, focus on just watching that film or enjoying time with your friends. It's like being present is productive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, what do you, how would you define hustle culture? You mentioned that.
Oh, yes.
What's the deal with that?
Okay, wow. This is a big topic. I feel like we have just been trained our whole lives to value things with output that's tangible.
Yeah.
So, whether that is a grade, that is the university that you're going to, the work you're going to get for a paycheck, like all of that has some kind of goal that you can work towards. And so anything like self-care, where the thing that you're achieving isn't tangible, we just don't value. When that's looking after your mental health, it's not a tangible output. So you don't put the same time and energy into it. And that's so toxic. We've got this culture where it's like everyone wants a side hustle, which, we love a side hustle. It's great, but not at the detriment of killing yourself in the process, because that takes out the fun, that takes out the productivity, all of it. Yeah, this is something that like I often struggle with. It's very much a first world problem, where I will feel guilty when I'm not doing something that generates economic output. Like in the last few days, I got the new Ratchet and Clank game on the PlayStation. This is a game I used to play a lot when I was like between the ages of 8 and 13. And it's been really nice just spending an hour in the evenings, just like shooting some people with like this cartoon cat thing. But cool.
It's really good. It's like a very kind of childish game. But I've historically been like, sort of flip-flop between like anti-video game and pro-video game. Anti-video game because it's a waste of time that is not generating economic output. Pro-video game precisely because it's a waste of time that doesn't generate economic output and this kind of stuff. And I feel like for me, the more successful I become in sort of output terms, the more the goalpost changes. And I think, oh, but now we've got a team of like 12 people. And now, I should be...
You could always do more, right?
Yeah, I should be doing more because now these people's livelihoods are dependent on my YouTube channel being successful. All this kind of stuff. How do you kind of find time / make time for the self-care stuff that's not associated with economic output?
I think in just the same way that you plan your time for the things that create economic output, you have to plan your time for the things that don't.
Okay.
At least that often helps me. So like for me, I just have a really strong routine in the morning, which sets my whole mind up for the day. Like,
what does that look like?
What
is UnJaded Jade's morning routine?
Yeah, so I will do yoga and meditation like almost every morning without fail. And I find the days that I don't do it, I'm just a worse human. And that's not something that's going to make me money or, it doesn't contribute to, doing my job better. Even I guess it does. It's just something that makes me feel good every morning. I do that. And then also something I'm trying to do is on Sundays, just not touch my phone or, try and like not be in the social media world as much as I am in the week. And then I feel like when I release this need to share, I also I'm not in hustle culture as much because I think being in the study tube world or the productive world, you feel like you have to be doing cool stuff so that you can share the cool stuff. And then when I've decided, well, I'm not going to share anything today, then it's like half the pressure's gone. And then it's like only myself I've got to do it for. And then I can just enjoy my time a bit more.
Interesting. What does your yoga and meditation practice look like?
I do YouTube videos. Don't know if you know Yoga with Adrian.
Oh yes,
you do.
I started her 30-day challenge and got to about day 7, day 9.
What happened?
I forgot to do it one day, and then the habit
then-
broke,
and
and
then-
then
yeah, fair enough.
intended to do it at some point.
Yeah.
Never really got around to it. You know, the classic.
Yeah, I really like her. I also really like yoga with Patrick and Carling.
Oh, okay.
He's like tough power yoga,
Okay.
which I really like. So I do like a bit of hers, like soft yoga, good
It's
for
very
breathing.
wholesome, yeah.
Very wholesome. You just feel safe in her presence.
Yeah,
Like
genuinely.
she's lovely. Yeah. And then he's a bit more like, okay, I'm sweating.
Okay.
So that's like a nice balance for me. And then I always do like a 5-minute meditation on Insight Timer or YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So you just like wake up and decide to put on a random YouTube video, or do you have like a playlist that you're working through?
Yeah, again, it depends. So sometimes I like put it ready on my YouTube the night before, just like reduce the friction. In the morning when I'm tired, I can just wake up and do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you just like roll out of bed onto your yoga mat and then do stuff like?
Yeah.
Oh, like genuinely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair play. Now I remember last time we spoke, that inspired me to get a yoga mat.
Oh,
So I now have a yoga
love it.
mat,
That's
which is like
cool.
behind that curtain over there. And I was using that for like home workouts and like yoga sessions during lockdown when that
Yeah.
was a thing.
How's your yoga habit now?
It's entirely non-existent right now.
Oh,
But I'm moving to London in about 7 days' time, so I'm
that's exciting.
now,
You should try
yeah.
hot yoga.
I really want to try hot
It's
yoga.
so good. I love it.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Have you ever tried acro yoga?
Never, but I also really want to
I
try
want to
it.
try acro yoga.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be absolutely sick.
Yeah.
Do you follow Sam Calder and Chelsea Kawai and stuff on Instagram? Oh, they're really cool. There's these like travel vloggers,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram people. Sort of, they do these incredible like acro yoga routines.
Oh, so cool.
Both like in incredible
Yeah.
shape. He's got like
Yeah.
6-pack abs like all the
Wow.
time. It's like absolute goals. And every time I see one of their videos, I'm like, whoa, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
It looks really hard though.
No, that's definitely a goal in my life to try that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do a few classes in London once I feel like I'm deferring a lot of things to once I move to London, then I will do X.
So easy to do.
And I feel like it's too easy to do that for a lot of things in life as
Yeah,
well. That's
so true.
Once I finish uni, then I'll start a YouTube
Yeah.
channel, or
Yeah.
you know, once I get promoted, then I'll be
Yeah.
happy. Or
like,
that
why
kind
not
of stuff.
today? Why not yoga today? Ali?
Exactly. I should just do it today.
Do you have any things that you feel connect your mind and body?
What does that mean?
That's a deep question, I know. So like for me, I find yoga is a practice that really just makes me feel more like present. So my mind is like switched off, I'm in my body, and then for the whole rest of the day, I just feel like more grounded, more connected.
I know what you mean. I have this on Friday mornings when I have my tennis lesson at 8:00.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the feeling. I always feel like really good after that
Yeah,
lesson, and then I'm
yeah.
like sort of ready to crush it the rest of the day.
That's really cool.
I should do more activity in the morning. That
Yeah.
would be a fun thing.
Because it just sets up your whole day to be better.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like these balls flying at you from a coach who can hit them really hard. It's like, you don't
Yeah.
have time to think. You just have
Wait,
to
have
like...
you always done tennis?
No, I dabbled with it in school, but I've started taking it seriously about 6 months ago. And
cool.
I realized that you can just like get lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Wimbledon, here we come.
Wimbledon, here we come at some point. It's on the bucket list. So meditation as well. I've been dabbling. I'm on day 4 of Sam Harris's Waking Up app.
Oh, yeah.
I've been on day 4 for about a week now. So
What does the app have you do?
it's just a very beginner 30-day course for now.
Okay, cool.
Which is like sit in a quiet place and then you have it in your AirPods or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's mostly like breathing, and he just like occasionally is like, okay, at this point you probably find your mind is wandering. So don't worry.
I was going to say, how do you find it? Do you find you're like able to generally focus on the guided meditation, or are your thoughts everywhere?
I find I'm usually able to focus on it. I feel like I haven't done it for long enough to actually get the benefits of it. Because I do it for a day or two once I speak to someone like you. Get like a motivation, like meditation, yes. And then something or the other happens, and I have like a Zoom call at 8 a.m. and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then I think, what the hell am I doing? I can literally do whatever I want. I choose my own schedule. This was the point of all of this, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, side hustle stuff.
Yeah.
And yet the calendar still feels outside of my control. So I need to sort this out.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Wait, weren't you saying recently that like your calendar feels like it's taken up by a lot of managing people
Yes.
and as opposed to just doing activities for you or like general strategy, I guess, for you
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah.
How has that been, this shift of managing people?
It is really fun. And I used to think that meetings were a waste of time. And I used to look at people's calendars who have like meeting after meeting after meeting and think like, how can you possibly get anything done? But now that I've got a fairly big team, it's like my time is actually best spent in a meeting, kind of sharing some ideas and a vision and basically telling other people what to do, which feels really good. But then if I take a step back, I'm like, I've just been in meetings like literally from 9 o'clock to 5 p.m. And now I've got like a 3-hour long podcast, and now I've got like another Zoom call with my writing coach, and now it's like 11 p.m. It's like when you're in it, you don't realize just how like all encompassing, how all soul sucking it can be. And then occasionally when I find time to take a step back, I think, what the hell's going on with my calendar? But I'm finding that given that I live my life by my calendar, I've now blocked out 4 hours Wednesday afternoons called Ali's time to think.
That's
like no one can interrupt anything.
Yeah.
And I will try not to bring my phone into that.
Yeah.
To just like write or just think or go for a walk or things like that. The other thing I'm trying to do is scheduling something in at like 5 or 6 p.m. for an hour, like an activity or something, which forces me to get out of the office or get off my computer.
Nice. Yeah.
And then that's like a reset.
Yeah. And you're probably more effective up till then, right? Because you're like, I need to get it all done by this point.
Yes, exactly. And then in the evening, if I really want to and I'm really enjoying it, then I can choose to do more work or things that look like work.
Yeah.
But if not, then I can just play PlayStation or like hang out with a friend. Or
amazing.
So that's a theory anyway. I'm going to implementing it over the next few weeks, and I'll report back and let you know how it goes.
I was going to say, wow, that's so cool though. This shift to, I guess, managing a whole company, right? Like I heard you saying that you were reading a lot more books in the business space. Has that been helping you a lot?
Oh yeah. I feel like every time I read a new business book, I'm like, damn, I wish I'd discovered this sooner. Because again, like a few years ago, I'd have been like, oh, business books, what a waste of time. Like, you learn business by doing business. And I was like, oh, actually, these guys with like 40 years of experience running, like they know what they're talking about. This is some good advice. So now I'm finding that.
Something I'm interested in is your idea of hierarchy in your business.
Okay, yeah.
Do you feel like a superior to the people you're working with a lot of the time? Is it like, does it feel like you're almost friends and then you're bouncing ideas off of each other? Like, how do you think about it? And I don't know if you've heard of like holocracy or more.
Oh no, what's that?
Oh, we can talk about that after.
Okay. Okay, how do I feel about hierarchy? I don't feel like a superior in any way. In fact, and I very much see us all as, you know, we're all friends / we're on the same team kind of thing. But at the same time, there is that thing of I know I need to communicate like an expectation of what I want and what success looks like. And I often do a very bad job of doing that because I think, oh, we're just friends. We're all just making it up as we go along. And it's only recently that I realized, like, if I set like a goal, like an arbitrary goal of like, you know, by the end of the year, we want 150,000 subscribers on the email list. Like that's actually quite useful for Jakob, who's our marketing guy, who's helping grow the email list, because now he's got something to shoot for. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Whereas before I was like, oh, KPI is a waste of time. Who cares about KPIs? I'm also surprised as to, because in my head, I'm just making it all up as I go along. And so when I like float an idea by the team, in my head, it's just an idea and it's just a rough pencil sketch. But in their heads, it's like, oh, Ali said we need to do something, so we need to do the thing. And then like a week later, it's like the idea changes. And then people are like, oh, but you said this other thing last week. Like, and now you're changing your mind every other day. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, well,
wow,
that's a bit weird, because I didn't think I asked you to do anything, but they took my rough idea
pressure,
and like
right?
did stuff with it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I realized I've had to kind of, to me, over communicate a lot where it's like, okay, guys, just to clarify, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. This
you don't
is
need
just
to action this.
Do not do anything right now. I'm just floating an idea. Don't do anything with it. All that kind of stuff. So there's been some of the challenges with the management stuff, but it's like really fun.
Yeah.
And it's really fun, like working with people, and like
so cool.
Angus is over here at the moment on his laptop, just hanging out. And it's been really, really nice having people in WeWork, co-working space. To the point where all of the people we're now hiring, we want to be based in London to have like an actual London office. And your agency 16th has been like Danny and Fran and stuff have been really helping us on the operations side. Amazing. About like what it's like to grow a business and things like that. So that's been fun.
Wow, cool.
What about you? Have you thought about like kind of expanding, teamifying your brand, as it were?
Not right now, just because I think while I'm in university, my priority is still having a social life and learning about myself and just making mistakes and just living my life as a person beyond YouTube. Okay. Because I feel like that's so important to me during university, and I'm also lucky I get to travel a lot and do all these things. And I think I don't have the freedom to do that when I'm investing so heavily in YouTube. So the next 2 years of my life is still in that experiment phase. And then I think after YouTube, when I'm like, okay, cool, like maybe this is the career that I want to pursue, that I'll turn it into something. But right now I like the flexibility in my life.
Are you not worried that, and so this is my thought process with this, that like I have hit the jackpot, I got right place, right time, the YouTube channel took off. I really don't want to screw this up. The algorithm, anything could happen to my channel, anything could happen to the algorithm. If I stop uploading videos at a cadence of 2 videos per week, something bad is going to happen. And I don't want that something bad to happen.
Speaking from experience.
And therefore, given that I don't want something bad to happen.
But then you're chained to the algorithm.
Exactly, yeah. It seems like you have like shed the chains of the algorithm.
I think
At least that's what it looks like on the outside.
I think I have, yeah.
How did you do it?
Defining your priorities in life.
Okay.
If your priorities are just numerical success for your whole life, then brilliant. But for me, I know that my human fulfillment does not just come from YouTube. And yes, when I'm succeeding, it's brilliant. I feel great, you know, like it's just this like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this thing in the background that like, I know it's all going good, you know, with the algorithm. But in the times of my life where I've only focused on YouTube and I've been doing the best with the algorithm, sometimes when I'm the least happy, because I'm not putting the same energy into relationships in my life, into, I don't know, just learning about myself through other activities. So I define that as a priority for myself, is while I'm at university, I want to have the space to not just be a YouTuber and to be messy, and, you know, an element of like being a bit chaotic at uni means I can't do YouTube to the same extent as if I was just focusing on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So reprioritization.
Okay.
But it's a sacrifice for sure.
So then do you think at all about like 2 years from now, if you don't take YouTube so seriously, that maybe the YouTube career won't be there and you'll have to like get a real job? Is that something that concerns you?
It used to, but no.
Oh, okay.
No, because the algorithm, okay, yeah, if you don't post for a bit, it might come back and have to build things up again. But if you're able to do it once, why can't you do it again? You know, like you've clearly learned how to do this. You have something of value to share. People want to listen to you. People know who you are. And even if it took 6 months of you, you know, working hard to get back to anywhere close to where you were, you've done it before. It would be so much easier than the first time round, and yet you will have gained so much in the time off. Is how I view. I'm not saying you have to quit YouTube, but I also I feel this fear in you, Ali, to like to stop, you know, when you're on the algorithm's so on your side. I'm so proud of you. Like you do so well on YouTube. But I remember when we were having the chat last year about you thinking about traveling and increasing your surface area for serendipity.
All that stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah. And I can imagine it must feel even further away when it's like, you know, you've got a team and you're learning all this stuff on this incredible business side. But yeah, I don't know, is there still a part of you that thinks there's the things you want to do beyond YouTube, but you're chained by YouTube?
Yeah, I think so. I think the way that I think of it is less about YouTube specifically and more about like the wider kind of being a thought leader / you know, that sort of internet personality kind of thing, which sounds really cringe to say out loud.
He's a thought leader.
That's a dream anyway. And the thing that always worries me is that it's all, as much as we've tried to diversify away from YouTube, it's still all very dependent on YouTube.
For sure.
And I look at, you know, there are very few YouTubers who were big 10 years ago who are still big today. Tech YouTubers have done well in like staying relevant and things. And so I often think about this as like, what exactly am I scared of? Because, you know, the business is doing well, we're sufficiently profitable, etc. But I'm still like climbing the greasy pole of like subscriber count and like views and like revenue and all this sort of stuff. And there's got to be a point at which it has to stop / like take a step back. So that's one side of me. But the other side is like, yeah, but it's really fun. And we're getting an office and we're hiring a team and it's like cool. And I actually, if I think about what I would find more fun, I think being in London and going to a WeWork every day feels to me more fun than like traveling would for now.
Yeah.
And so I feel like in this season of my life, which is kind of like a hustle kind of season, while on the side, doing acro yoga and playing PlayStation and stuff on the side to, self-care, it feels like, why not do the hustle thing for as long as it's fun? And if it stops being fun, then I'll reassess.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's really valid too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, and like as you say, you've got this whole new chapter ahead of you in London with a team and an office. Like that's an adventure in itself. That's a huge change. I thought you've engineered your routine here, so that's going to be a huge change.
Yeah, I feel like it hopefully should be fun. So you're having a big change in a couple of weeks, right? You're going to Berlin.
Yes, I am. Although I've lived there before, I've studied there before, which is amazing because it's the first time in my degree that I'm going back to a city. Okay. So I feel like I already have, some of my favorite places there. Yeah, it's just very exciting.
How long were you there for last time?
4 months.
Okay.
2 of which were in total lockdown.
Okay, so really 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months.
And then this time around, how long is it for?
4 months again.
Okay.
4.5 months, yeah.
What's that like, kind of being in a city for like 4 months at a time? I've never really done that.
Okay. It's so many things. It's a lot of emotions.
Right.
It's incredible. You find like my concept of home has shifted a lot because you do find a home in this place. Like I don't know, I leave a piece of my heart wherever I go. I swear, like all these cities around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've kind of developed this routine of first month is going to be really tough. Everything is new. The language, the culture, the people, all of it is just like totally out of your comfort zone. Second month, things get a little bit easier. You're developing a routine. And then third month is just sweet spot. Like life is just amazing. You found it's like honeymoon, you've got your routines, you understand this place. And then fourth month is still good, but like I'm learning to leave it behind. So it's like bittersweet. Yes. So it's good, but then I also sometimes feel this lack of stability in moving a lot. Okay. Because it's, I get to experience these amazing places, but then I know it's always going to be for a short time.
Okay. Is that because of the university thing keeping you moving? Okay. Do you think once you graduate, you'd want to continue the sort of traveling, living in a new place every 4 to 6 months sort of lifestyle? Or has it gone out of your system? So yeah.
Yeah, good question. I don't know, if I'm honest. I think part of me wants stability and like friends in one place. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, it's so amazing. Like the whole slow travel thing where you live in a new place. You just learn so much about yourself really quickly. Like every place you go is so different. And like forces a different version of yourself, I feel.
What do you mean you learn about yourself?
Okay. So, for example, Berlin and Seoul, I think, are 2 of the most different places you could be in. Like Berlin is like, I don't know, so individualistic. As in like you're in the street. People don't care what they wear, and I love it. People could just be like wearing a bin bag or wearing a suit, and everyone will look at you exactly the same. People play their music super loud, and that's just them living their life. And people will, sometimes just like dance in the street to the music, and everything's just very free. Whereas in Seoul, it's very respectful culture. You have to be a lot kind of quieter and sort of keep to yourself. Yeah. And it's got this collectivistic thing. And I never lived in a place I like either of those two. So in Berlin, it sort of taught me I could take up more space and experiment with my fashion. And that was a side of myself I got to explore. Whereas when I went to Korea, you're on the bus, and if you talk, people will look at you until you stop talking. Oh, okay. So it's like, wow, I learned that, I'm a lot louder than I always thought I was, or that I enjoy conversations with strangers, which will never happen here because everyone will keep to themselves more, and because of the language differences. So you come out of the places having learned about how you would adapt to these situations and what aspects of your personality you like to express.
Oh, and do you think there's like a minimum effective dose in terms of like length of time that you're in a place? Because I've been to Japan for a week at a time. I don't think I learned anything about myself in that time. But
for sure, I think you have to like live there. Yeah, like commit to living there, not just like a holiday. But I don't know if there's a minimum amount of time. I think 3 months you could probably do it, but I think 4 months really has been like a sweet spot for living in a city. Kind of, as I said, those phases that you go through in the months. Yeah. I think 2 months is really just the exposure thing and figuring everything out. And then that third month is when you're feeling a bit better.
So a few minutes ago, we were talking about the YouTube channel, and you said that you're wondering whether YouTube is going to be your career 2 years from now when you graduate. How do you think about this concept of like career and this thing of like, because my view on this is that like, what does career even mean? It's like if you're a doctor, that's a career. If you're a lawyer, that's a career, because it's like, oh, there's one thing that you're doing, kind of there's a clear progression. But I feel like for you and for me, maybe like the word career doesn't feel quite right. Yes. How are you thinking about that kind of concept?
That's so true. Yeah, career is definitely like an old time phrase, I think, where the assumption is, you go to one company and you stay there for your lifetime and work up the hierarchy. But no, I feel like people have multiple careers in their life. That is the new definition of a career. I think just doing whatever feels right at that time, job-wise, is probably the best thing. I have friends right now who are graduating and going into random jobs that's not going to be their long-term career, but no doubt they're going to go there. They're going to learn a lot. They're going to learn what they do, they don't like. They're going to meet people who are going to lead them on to other things. And I think that is what we should normalize as a career, is just doing things and, throwing, what's the expression? Throwing something at a wall?
Oh yeah. Throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Throwing spaghetti at a wall. Yeah. And just, if you don't like the career, you change. And YouTube is I guess, a phase of our overall careers, which will lead us on to other things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I find that, so my mum is fairly old school in her like approach to stuff, as I think like a lot of parents are. And her whole thing is that like, that for me, that I should have a plan, and the fact that I change my mind every few months from what I want to do is like signs that I'm a scatterbrained and don't have any clear like whatever. And it's like when I have conversations with her, it's like a part of me wonders, should I have more of a plan, like a clearer idea of where I want to be 5 years from now? Should I do an Odyssey plan and actually stick to it? Or but then the other half is like, I'll just do what's fun in the moment and what seems to roughly make sense, and things will work out.
Relatable. Yeah. I don't know. I think there are some things you need a plan for. Like if you decide you want to be a doctor, that's something you've got a plan for. And from now to there is like a very clear trajectory. But yeah, I know recently I was making like a mood board for my life, like a vision board.
Oh, okay.
And this is really hard because I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I want to live. Like all of these things are very hazy, but I still wanted to try and create like a vision board of some kind. And I was scrolling through Pinterest, trying to be like, okay, like what resonates with me? I don't even know what to type in. And I think I was just trying to capture more of a feeling or a set of values that are kind of timeless in what I want to, how I want to shape my life. And the mood board is still in progress, but like right now, I love the flexibility I have in the fact that my job can be remote, that you can do YouTube from anywhere. That's something I really value. I've been able to do it at university. I love the flexibility to sort of make a video on whatever I want to. And realizing those things about what I like now is probably going to be quite similar in 5 years in what I want from a career. So I find that useful.
So what is a vision board?
Oh, it's just like a collection of images, phrases, words. Like you can do magazine clippings, but like digitally, you can use Pinterest. Yeah. And the idea is that you put it up, and when you look at it, it gives you the feeling of the direction you want to go in. It's like a kind of like a source of motivation, but also like a hazy direction in pictures.
Because you've talked in a few videos about like manifestation and stuff. What is, so I've read The Secret.
I haven't read The Secret.
Oh, okay, cool. And everyone I've heard speak about The Secret does it in very like disparaging terms, that like all this manifestation stuff is all like BS. But you like talk about it sincerely.
Yeah.
Or it seems to be like, what is manifestation to you, and how does it manifest in your life, as it were?
Okay, so to me, it's kind of common sense.
Okay.
In a way, if you want something, you're going to have to say it out loud. You're going to have to take actions towards it. And you're also going to probably need a bit of luck, because that's how life works. And that's kind of common sense, like if you want a certain job, if you want to be a doctor, you first got to decide that that's something you really want. You've got to be very specific. Say, okay, I probably in the next 5 years, I'm going to have to apply for med school. I'm probably going to want to go to maybe this university. Then you can say it out loud. You can write it down. It becomes kind of a clearer thought. And then you have to wait, let me say that again. Just through, like putting it down on paper, you're already thinking about actions of how you're going to go towards that, whether that's like working harder for certain grades. And then the element of luck that I guess the law of attraction comes into, you can call it synchronicity, you can call it luck, you can call it the universe, you can call it whatever you want to, but there's always an element of that. So the law of attraction is that to me. It's you decide something and you get really clear on what it is you want. And then you can also assist that thing with visualizations. Like the more you can picture yourself having that thing, the more likely you are to have it, just because you're going to shape your actions towards also getting it.
So what would the visualization thing look like?
So I think this falls into the realm of meditation. For example, like closing your eyes. I think about this with an exam. Like the night before an exam, if you close your eyes and you picture yourself in the exam hall, most people, first thing I think of is stress. You're like flicking through the paper, you've got no time, and you're kind of manifesting that version of you being stressed without you doing anything about it. So in order for you to do the opposite, you'd have to visualize yourself being there, being calm, being rational, being focused, and like, feeling quite confident, kind of fake it till you make it. And the more that you picture that and imagine yourself in it, then the more likely you are to borrow from that visualization and naturally do it. So it's kind of just imagining the best case scenario, but that makes you more likely to also do that scenario. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I feel like I sometimes accidentally do this without realizing I'm doing this. There was this guided meditation thing I did the other day, which was sort of about imagining your life some years in the future. What does your house look like? What does the family look like? What are you spending your time doing? And before doing it, I was like, oh, this is going to be some stupid meditation thing. And then and then I did it. It was like 20 minutes and I was like, oh, wow, I've just never spent any time thinking what could my life look like in the future. And I had like a very specific sort of vision of what like my future house might look like. And, I was like, oh, in this vision, like, the wife is tucking the two kids into bed. There's like a third one on the way. We've got a little fireplace. I've got like my little desk in the corner that has like an iMac on it or whatever. It's like a guitar. I've been playing the guitar. It's like a dog. And it's like, oh, this is kind of nice. And since doing that, like last week, I have been thinking back to that and thinking, I wonder what sort of dog I want like in the future. It's just like just random. I very rarely think what sort of dog do I want in the future, but the fact that I did that visualization thing is now like a thing where I feel like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get a dog in the future. It's obviously going to happen.
That's so cool.
And so I don't know. I feel like I want to do more in the way of like this sort of vision boarding-y type stuff.
That's awesome.
I haven't really got around to doing
that.
it.
That's basically what the law of attraction is, or at least the way I think about it. It's just getting clear on your vision for your life, which we don't do enough. And I'm not clear on that. But as soon as, you start to have an idea, it does sort of work its way into your mind more, and then you're more likely to make it happen.
Would you be open to sharing some of the things in your vision board? Or is it like a private thing?
It's kind of private because I don't know, like if this is actually what I want.
No, fair enough. Have you found the manifesting stuff helping in other aspects of life as well?
I think in terms of confidence.
Oh, okay. As in like you imagine yourself as being more confident.
Exactly.
You are more confident.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. Like again,
often that's how you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even, for example, with the book, like when I was writing this book, when I had to go down and sit down and was dreading the writing process, visualizing myself as someone who had written the book, who had finished it and was receiving a nice review from someone about how it helped them, but not in like a stressful way, just like this was clearly helpful to them. Things like that, it helps you then find that motivation to sit down and write. Okay.
That's very interesting. And do you do this like actively? Do you have like a slot in your calendar for like manifesting time, or like how does it work within your life?
Because I have a solid routine of meditation, some of those meditations I choose to do on that day could be in the realm of manifestation.
Okay, so you type in manifestation meditation on YouTube and someone will give you a guided tour.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that must have been that thing that I did the other
Exactly.
day, which is just
Yeah.
like someone talking.
Yeah.
You're like, close your eyes, imagine yourself 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Think about the sounds, think about the feelings,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And you can just imagine if you did that meditation every day, like every day you'd sort of add to that vision,
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely.
You're like, oh, I have a dog, and like, oh, I'm starting to see like a
Yeah.
poodle, you know,
Yeah.
like, would I like a poodle? And the next day you do the meditation, you're like, actually, no, it's like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I guess in my head, meditation is like you sit there doing nothing for X
I
amount
think
of
most
time.
people think that.
Yeah.
There's so many different types, like
Right.
visualizations, meditations. There are like breathing frameworks, just being present and, you know, hearing everything around you, engaging with your senses.
Okay.
There's loads.
And you don't need to, I guess, again, when it comes to meditation, I think I overthink it in like, I need to find the perfect like path. Whereas it sounds like what you're doing is just like type in some random meditation on YouTube, depending on what you're feeling, and just go for it.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
like obviously good for you.
Yeah, and because I know that the practice of meditation generally is good, it doesn't really matter what it is. Like just closing my eyes and like forcing myself to breathe for like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm showing up, like I'm doing the work. You know, it doesn't need to be like the perfect meditation every day. And if I like it, I can do it again.
Sick. That is very cool. I'm going to turn to our Instagram audience now for some potentially rapid fiery type questions.
Okay.
The questions are going to be rapid, but the answers don't necessarily have to be.
Okay,
I'd love
cool.
you to expand on stuff if you like. Oh, wonderful. We have categories as well. What is hashtag casual magic?
Ooh. Okay, so casual magic is a concept that I've been practicing for the last few years. The idea is that not every day is going to be your wedding day or your anniversary or your birthday or like an objectively exciting day. But that means that like, I don't know, the rest of your life, that like 99.9% of your life is just boring, or you don't frame it in a way that has that much meaning or gives you that much happiness. So the idea of casual magic is every day finding something really casual in your mundane life that you find magic in. So, for example, the way that the light's coming into the room is really beautiful. Or, I don't know, just like having a nice tea and just like actively noticing to yourself, like, this is a nice moment. Like, it's really casual, but a little bit magic. And like after reading so many books on happiness, that's sort of one of the things I found is it's all about how you personally find meaning. So trying to find meaning every day.
So wholesome, man.
People find that so
It's
cringy, but I just
It's
think
not cringy at all. It's great.
What's your casual magic today?
My casual magic today.
Something little that you're grateful for.
Something little that I'm grateful for. I really like these bulbs. We put these like little fairy light type things up yesterday because we were having a goodbye leaving party for Sheen.
Oh,
And I think it's just a great vibe. It
Yeah,
add
you
a
should
good
keep
vibe to the
them.
room, so I'm going to keep them.
love it.
Yeah, I think like I had a few friends whose bedrooms had that sort of lighting type stuff in them. I always used to think, oh, this is really cozy and nice. I just never thought that I could.
It was part of your
like
aesthetic.
a thing. Yeah. But now I think it'll be part of the aesthetic.
Love it.
What advice would you give Ali about writing a book?
Oh.
Apart from all the stuff we've
Stop.
already
I was
talked
going to
about.
say, we had a little bit of chat about that. Stop overthinking it, firstly. Flesh out those ideas before sharing them with other people.
Yeah.
Like, sit with yourself and write them. And thirdly, find your space, your like sanctity of space around a moment, a place, a cafe, something like that that's just yours. Don't bring any of your writing people there.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And just
Sanctity of space. That's a nice phrase. Is that one that you've
that's
invented?
something talked
Nice.
about in
That's
the book.
good. That's a good way of framing it. Ardish says, how did you name the chapters of your book?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I thought about it and then
Yeah, I mean,
and then did it.
they're fairly like
they're quite basic, aren't they? How we learn.
study methods.
Yeah.
It's time for timetables. Oh, nice.
Thanks.
That's good.
Probably the best one.
Mental health the night before an exam. Ready
Yeah.
for battle. Before
Ready
carrying
for
it.
battle. It could
Excellent.
have one dramatic.
It's got to be done. Yeah. I mean, like the title plus that chapter. Anjara says, what's your favorite book? Apart from this.
Yeah. The only study guide you'll
Link to the
ever
video
need.
description.
I think Atomic Habits has really shaped my life in a positive way. Or The 4-Hour Work Week was one of the first businessy books I ever read. One concept that really stuck with me was the idea of the mini retirement in 4-Hour Work Week. I say the 4-Hour Work Week has just been really, really good.
What's the mini retirement thing for the unfamiliar.
Oh, yeah. So it's the idea that, generally we wait till retirement to enjoy our lives or do all these things, like go traveling. And Tim Ferriss, he has a mini retirement every year where, you can take like a month and do exciting things. You can go traveling rather than waiting your whole life to finish your work. You can like work your whole life and have the retirements in between.
Yeah, we're trying to sort of do this concept within our team whereby every 6 or 7 weeks we all take a sabbatical for a week where like no work gets done.
That's awesome.
We publish like one video which has been pre-scheduled and stuff.
Yeah.
And no one's allowed to do any work. They really, really want to, but it's like, encouraging people to take a break.
Do you actually not do work during that time?
So far we've done it for 1 week, whereby it was basically 100% work from mine and Angus's part. I feel like some of the rest of the team took some time off.
Okay.
But one of my friends has been doing the sabbatical thing for the last like 7 years. He says it takes you a few rounds to actually get into the habit of not doing any work for a week.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping it'll happen at some point. Okay, StudyMed says, what did you like and dislike most about your book writing journey?
Ooh, like the most is when I read back like a paragraph or something, and I just had this feeling of, this is good. Like that doesn't happen often, where you're like, this is actually something of value. Or when you're really overthinking how you want to say something, or like, for example, mental health, I talk about in the book. And I came up with this metaphor about how mental health is like the weather. And when I hit that, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense to me. And I think this could really help people.
Why is mental health like the weather?
Oh, okay. So if you think in the UK, every day you wake up and the weather's different, you don't know how it's going to be. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but either way, you sort of got to get on with your day. The weather doesn't define the day. It doesn't define how you are, even though it can change how it is. But, it's a universally recognized thing that we have weather and it's going to change. And mental health from that perspective is the same. Like every day, your mind is going to be a bit different. You're going to have days where you're feeling under the weather.
Oh, no. That's good.
There we go.
So many levels.
Yeah, and it doesn't define you. It's just, your mind that day might be feeling a bit worse and you just have to observe it. And, if it's raining outside, you pack an umbrella. But often if you're not feeling good one day, you don't do anything for it. You don't do a meditation or take time for yourself like you might do to protect yourself from the weather. Yeah, and then one thing I kind of went on to talk about is in the UK, we talk about the weather a lot, but we never talk about mental health. So it's this paradox, why can't we turn mental health into something that's talked about and checked on just like the weather is?
How do you notice how you're feeling?
Yeah, so this is something I talk about in the book, is developing a practice of some kind, which is you checking in. So that could be journaling, which can feel like a lot of friction at the start, but it's an amazing habit to get into. Just like brain dumping how you feel or just thoughts in your head. And as you write, like stream of consciousness, and you read it back, you can often get a gist of how you're feeling, especially when you compare it. Or meditation, even just closing your eyes for 1 minute and just stopping all the distractions. That's checking in for me. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, this is a good question. How am I feeling right now?
Can I just say, this is something I've been realizing this year.
Yeah.
Boys and men, oh my God, I feel like they dread the question, how are you feeling right now? No one can answer it. Why can't you answer it?
Okay, so the reason I can't answer it is because... So I've been thinking about this genre of stuff a lot over the last few weeks to months. I think I never take the time to think about how I'm feeling. And therefore, when asked, how are you feeling? Like literally the only word that comes to mind is good or great.
Yeah, that's so unsatisfying.
But apparently the thing that you do is get into the habit of not using those words and like elaborating more on what it feels like. And I just don't do that. And therefore it just feels unnatural and weird and like I'm sort of making stuff up. How are you feeling right now? Like how would you describe your... Yeah.
Okay. I think a little bit self-conscious, if I'm honest,
okay.
Because I'm like aware that there's loads of cameras and that anything I can say is going to be used like probably, and I'm going to stumble and I'm not in control of the editing process. So like, yeah, a little bit self-conscious, but at the same time, relaxed. Like it's a nice environment here.
Okay. reasonable. That's better than good. Yeah, decent. It's all right. I've been reading stuff about this sort of thing. People say that you should kind of ask yourself what your body is feeling right now. And then the more you do that, the more you'll get used to being like, oh, that feeling when my stomach is a little bit like weird, I would label
it,
anxious or something like that. Actually,
have a go.
So I actually I had this a few days ago. So I was out to dinner with someone, and then on the way back to the car, realized that my bags had been stolen from the car, and I was tracking them on like Find My, because I had Apple AirTag on them. I was like, why my wallet's over there, backpack's over there, the car's over there. And I had this kind of weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I realized that, this is like a feeling of anxiety of like, is my car still there? Have they stolen the car? Because they've got the wallet, and the wallet had the car keys in it, and so on and so on. And then I was like, damn, I almost never feel this feeling. And then I was like, damn, I've got friends who actually have anxiety and they feel this all the time. Oh my God, that's awful. So that was like the thought process for this, because that was a very specific kind of bodily feeling that I could identify as being anxiety. Like right now, the feeling that I have is I am happy / glad / like enjoying this conversation. I think it's been really nice. There's a part of me that's self-conscious because I know that every time I'm on camera, I sweat, and so I'm trying not to let the pit stains show on the camera and all that kind of stuff. I'm also feeling a bit like, I don't know how I describe it, but like, given that I am quote the interviewer in this, sort of trying to stay one step ahead of where the conversation is going and thinking, okay, where are we getting to next? While at the same time thinking that you're doing a great job of like maintaining eye contact and being like very engaging. And so if I'm half in my mind about where's the conversation going next, maybe I'm coming across as less interested than I actually am because I'm having a great time internally.
Yeah, I thought you were completely bored.
Oh, well. And then at the same time, like, because the camera's on it and I have like a resting bored face, I've been told, it's like, I did an interview the other day and I was watching back myself and I was like, why do I look like I'm having the worst time? Because I was having a great time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let me like make my face sort of into a more like interested kind of face, which is not my default kind of face.
I feel like I've actually noticed you doing that during this conversation.
Oh, really? Yeah. Because I was actively thinking about this. Like, I don't want to look because my default face is like this.
Yeah, I feel like I've had moments during this conversation where I felt you notice that you look bored, and then you like actively try and be like happy and cute, like happy chappy. I'm like, oh, like it's cute. I feel like you're like actively trying to listen.
I'm actively trying to listen.
No, it's nice.
It's like even when I'm looking bored, I'm actively listening, but I'm just like looking at this, which people
like,
tell me.
Do I go on? Yeah. What did I say?
So, that's how I'm feeling right now.
That's a good answer.
Is that reasonable?
Better than good, yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
What was the question for that one? I don't remember.
What did you dislike about the book writing journey? Don't know how we got onto that, but great. Okay, Ranim says, don't you think that each student should have his own study guide according to his skills and potential, and not just one standard guide for everyone? Controversial.
Yeah, so I was actually having a conversation this morning about how, the whole when students often ask teachers, oh, how should I revise? The teacher says, whatever works for you. And to an extent, yes. But also what works for humans is also going to be good for you. So that's, that's what I would say to revision methods is that, there is science behind this stuff. There's the techniques which will work for you. And just because you haven't tried them yet doesn't mean they won't. So while you might enjoy certain techniques more, at the end of the day, try these ones, they work. And I think the bit which is obviously just me sharing my experience is the stuff on mental health, the stuff on perfectionism. And I'm very open that doesn't represent everyone and their experiences. So if you want to write your own study guide, I'm so happy. Go ahead. I
feel like it's kind of the same as like working out in that, yes, everyone's metabolism is different, everyone has different genes, but like, if you follow the principles of like, eat at a calorie surplus, eat protein and progressive overload, you will just get more hench. And then all the rest is kind of details. Like who cares about the details? Whereas with studying, you follow the principles of like spaced repetition, active recall, taking care of your mental health, etc., etc. You're
going to do okay.
You're going to do all right.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Azar says, does your book talk about imposter syndrome? Is it backed up by science, experience, or anything like that?
I don't actually talk about imposter syndrome. I think I very lightly touch on it. The last chapter is kind of a more general chapter because it's about the future. So I thought, my whole book is about studying, but so much of what you're studying is what you're studying for. And that is often the future. And I talk about Odyssey plans and things which help me, because part of my motivation was thinking about that future. And if you don't have a direction of where you're going, it's important to have that. So imposter syndrome is something I touched on in that chapter. But was mainly backed up by my experience, not a
fair play. What is the Odyssey plan for the uninitiated?
Oh, the Odyssey plan. Oh yeah, this is so cute as well. I still remember. I think this was one of the first videos of mine that you commented on. I made a video about Odyssey plans, and Ali was just like, "Oh, this is really great." I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's just really nice." So thanks. Yes, so it's a really useful framework. I think it was designed by Yale. Was it Yale? Stanford. Yeah. So Stanford University used this to help students, work out what they want to do with their lives. And the idea is that you create different versions of how your life could go. So if you were to go exactly on this current path you're on, studying what you're studying, how would your life look in 5 years? So if you're studying medicine, you're probably going to be a doctor or junior doctor. And then you do a second Odyssey plan, which is, what if you picked an alternative path? What if you decided to study something you're considering but not doing right now? How could your life look? And then lastly, you imagine if societal expectations didn't matter, money didn't matter, how would your life look in 5 years? What would you be doing? And then when you sit back, you can take some elements from this life that you would have if nothing else mattered and sort of put that into the life that you're actually going to have.
Yeah. So I first saw your video on this, I think, at the end of 2019-ish.
Yeah.
And it genuinely shaped sort of the things that I was doing with my life from that point onwards, because I just never thought of it in that way before. What does, how often do you do this? What is your 5-year Odyssey plan kind of thing look like?
I don't do it overly consistently. I think part of it comes into the whole manifestation thing that we were talking about, is being aware of things you'd like to attract into your life. But right now, I know that during university, I've changed so much already. Right. From first year to now, how I view YouTube, how I am as a person, how I view the world after traveling. It's just constantly changing, such that I don't have a very consistent 5-year plan, and that's fine with me. So I think this is something I'm going to revisit in final year. When I'm, closer to that stage. But right now I'm just enjoying my life. Let me enjoy my life, Ali.
It's all good. We've got Mutt who says, how do I get a copy of the book?
Oh, okay. So you can get it on any UK book retailers. So WH Smith, Waterstones, or Amazon.
Oh, is it UK only?
Currently, yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go for international?
It's something that I'd like to do, but the publisher I'm with is a medium-sized publisher. So it's kind of testing it out in the UK.
Yeah. And it's done pretty well in the UK. So
done really well, yeah.
Probably going to get America International, the whole shebang.
Yeah, that's something we're in discussion about, which is really cool.
That's very exciting. Yeah. Wow. So you're going to be an international bestseller.
I mean, let's manifest it.
Exactly. Okay. LSV says, what's your most useful advice for someone going to uni this September, other than to get the book?
Oh, yeah, definitely get the book.
Yeah, of course. It's got to happen.
Okay, I would say that uni is a good time to be messy, to work out so many things about your life. I think rather than going in and overly planning every minute of your life at uni, I would say try things. I'd say, make friends, learn about relationships, learn about how you learn about the subjects you like, join clubs, just do your best to go out of your comfort zone, because I think that's the best thing that uni is for. It's these few years of buying you time from the rest of the world. So yes, study hard, but also, I don't know, try stuff out.
I don't know. I'd probably give the same advice for people who've just graduated uni as well. I think we think of uni as being the time where you should be messy, but actually all of your 20s are a reasonable time to be messy.
Yeah.
A lot of people even say into your early 30s, you don't really need to have stuff figured out. You need to start figuring stuff out once you have a family and kids to support.
Yeah.
But until then, who cares? Just to kind of do stuff. I need to take that advice better myself. What helped motivate you to study the most during A-levels?
Oh, so many things. One thing, I think firstly, I really loved learning and I really value learning. So that was like kind of an intrinsic motivation to get me to want to do well, is because I wanted to learn. But secondly, I wanted to get into a good university. Yeah. So that was like a really good motivator.
Of course.
Boring, but true.
So we've got a few questions about productivity and then a few questions about life to close things off. So Pripra25 says, how has your relationship with productivity changed over the last few years?
So much. I used to overly care. Well, we're defining productivity in the like toxic hustle culture productivity.
In the economic output or whatever.
Economic output productivity. Yeah. I was that typical, cared too much about grades, all A-star person at school. My life was just studying. And yeah, I felt very guilty for taking time off. And I think that was also how I felt about the algorithm back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like if I take time off from the algorithm, it's not going to be good. And I think I just have a much healthier relationship to grades, learning. Like I redefined productivity in what we were saying earlier. And I don't know, just find more enjoyment in life.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's rambly.
Natasha says, how do you stay focused on your goals?
Breaking them down into many smaller sub goals. It's really hard to stay committed to one thing unless you make it tangible.
Yeah, definitely. And Anx05 says, what would you say keeps you motivated to wake up early every day? What time do you wake up?
It depends. I have at least one day a week where I wake up at 5 a.m.
Bloody hell.
Because it's just, I don't know, it's like my reset day.
Okay.
Like I tend, in summer it changes because I have the flexibility. But yeah, what motivates me to wake up early? I feel better. I just feel good. When I wake up early, it's like I have a longer day. I'm more productive. I'm less likely to do the thing where I just stay in bed and watch YouTube and go down a rabbit hole and feel bad. Yeah.
So do you wake up early? How do you balance the sort of need for 8 hours of sleep with the desire to wake up early?
I never have less than 8 hours sleep or less than 7 hours sleep. I really, sleep matters to me.
Okay. So on days you wake up at 5 a.m, you're sleeping at like 10.
Early.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a decision you make in the morning, it's a decision you make at night.
It's definitely a decision you make at night.
Okay.
For sure.
Because I've always tried doing it as a decision I make in the morning and it never works.
Come on. Where's the motivation? No. Oh my God. Mornings start at night for sure. You know what I was saying? Like if I want to do a yoga video tomorrow, putting it on my YouTube screen that night and then going to bed, knowing that I just roll out of bed when I've got no motivation and it's just there and you just click it on.
And then you just do the thing.
You just do it. Yeah.
Okay. Morning starts at night. It's good advice. And now a few questions about life. So Alva says, how have your aspirations changed since after your A-levels?
I think I was always 5-year plan person, have everything defined, go from point to point to point. And now I'm a lot more in the present. My aspirations are to just enjoy myself and learn about myself through, you know, friendships, relationships. Like, I don't know, say there's like a drama show, like a theatre performance or something that my friend wants me to go to. You know, in the past, I might have said no because I was going to do something related to my goals that evening. But being more flexible now in saying, let's, you know, Jade, this is valuable too. Let's enjoy that.
That's interesting. I'm really thinking back because I feel like when I was at school and university, for me, the work stuff was always the lowest thing on the priority list. And so if there was ever I made it a point when I got to university that I was never going to say no to a social event for the sake of work.
Yeah.
And then that actually worked surprisingly well. The thing that ended up cutting out of my life was watching TV by myself. So when work became my default activity rather than watching TV by myself, suddenly I had time to do all the things I wanted to and also like keep up with work, but just not watch TV by myself. So yeah. And
how much did you miss it for watching TV by yourself?
0.
There you go.
Occasionally people are like, oh my God, you've never seen The Office? And I'm like,
I haven't either.
Okay, Zahid says, how do you get over public criticism?
Oh, God, that's a tough one.
What sort of public criticism do you get?
I guess
can't imagine you get much public criticism.
That's criticism.
Yeah.
So
what's it look like? Like, apart from you look like a horse or whatever.
Oh, no, for example, I had a lot of
people is it these days?
Criticizing me for studying abroad during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people saying, why are you going to Korea? You know? And I think it's hard when I see criticism having a valid point. That's when I really struggle with it because I'm like, wow, like, you know, sort of questioning
I've never
moral
really thought
decisions.
about that. Yeah. Why did you go to Korea? Like, what?
Yeah. And so that was quite hard because it's part of my degree, you know, all my friends are going to. It's something that I'd sort of predefined, and that the pandemic was doing well. Like, it wasn't as bad in Korea. And that was honestly a really hard time for me when I got that criticism, because I was in quarantine in South Korea alone, like in this room, just with the world's criticism about me going to Korea. And it made me really like doubt my decision to go. But then now that I look back, like, would I have preferred to stay at home in lockdown, doing uni with the time difference of like 10 hours, when I could have gone as part of my degree? Like, I think a lot of people in the same situation would have gone too.
Yeah, and if you're quarantining, it's like,
and it's safe. Like, it's just, it was literally
what
fine.
are people complaining about?
But yeah, I think it's hard. I think it's just like being like coming back to why you make choices.
Yeah.
And as long as it's valid to you in your life, then like the criticism's fine. Yeah.
Okay, fair play.
So would you say your main criticism is the toxic productivity stuff, or do you also get criticism on other things?
The toxic productivity stuff, and recently, because I've appeared in a bunch of Sheen's videos. I did a couple of videos with Elizabeth. There was a lot of criticism that, oh wow, Ali's a real arrogant, narcissistic prick in these videos, and like he doesn't even look at them when he's speaking to them. He looks at the camera instead. What a dick, and stuff like, oh, the way he was coming across was so condescending. You can clearly tell that he doesn't have a respect for them, and a lot of like little things which people in the comments were. Yeah, it really did. Yeah, like people in the comments were like psychoanalyzing the hell out of this like minor thing. And then just to the point where I was like, have they maybe they have got a point. Like, I don't feel any of these feelings that they're describing that I'm feeling, but maybe it's subconscious. Maybe it's like, maybe I am just coming across as like a...
convince yourself, right? Yeah. When these comments are so well written and there's multiple of them. Yeah. And that's the thing, because how you come across...
Yeah. It's so subjective.
It's
like,
so subjective. They don't know you and your relationship with these people. It's like, you know, you could just judge from like this little video you're watching right now, everything about us as people. Yeah. And then when you're reading it, you like extrapolate it to yourself.
Maybe that's true. Is this how I come across with other people as well? Is this like, you know, have my friends think this way? This is why this thing of like, how do I look when I'm listening to someone rather than when I'm speaking, is like really in my mind of like, I need to not look as if I'm bored, because then people are going to be like, oh, I was clearly bored during this. When I was doing those like remote deep dives, like the one we did, because I'd have the webcam above me and I'd be looking at the comments, my eyes would always be pointing downwards, and the comments would be like, Ali, stop looking bored, pay attention. I'd be like, oh, like,
you're like trying
you have
so hard.
No idea what it's like trying to run a live stream with like comments floating down, all this kind of stuff. But to someone's, when someone's watching that, it genuinely does look like I'm bored. And so it's all this sort of stuff that kind of got to me, because it did have a point. Yeah. And especially like the way we come across this, it is actually someone's subjective perspective. Yeah.
But yeah, it's also when it touches on an insecurity, you know, and they don't know that necessarily there's an insecurity for you, but those comments stay in your head. And especially when they like start to shape your behavior or how you do things in future videos, like these people.
Yeah, man.
The internet's horrible. Be kind.
Yeah. What can you do? All right. We've got 3 more. Okay. Kieran says, what does a perfect day look like to you?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I would do my morning routine because I love my routine. It sets up a perfect day for me. So I would do my yoga, my meditation, preferably outside in nature with some beautiful weather. I'd have my porridge because I just genuinely really like that breakfast. And then I think I would spend half the day alone and half the day with friends. Half the day like walking, or I don't know, just in nature on my own. I feel amazing. And then on the beach with friends, and then, you know, like when you're like looking at the stars, having deep chats. Oh, love that.
That's a perfect day.
Fireside chats. What about you?
Mine would be get up, do some kind of writing, journaling-y type thing in the morning, then do some sort of like sports thing, so maybe tennis with friends or like a squash lesson. Or I was actually thinking about this when I was like genuinely trying to plan out my life in London, like what does my perfect day look like? And I was thinking, okay, so after the tennis lesson, it's 9:00, go to the office / co-working space to hang out with the team, have a few like content brainstorm sessions and stuff. And then in the afternoon, probably do one of these sorts of podcast interviews, because I really like doing these, because you can like really go deep, which normally, I don't know, there's something weird about having microphones in front of you that like encourages people to elaborate more on their thoughts than they would feel comfortable doing in real life. So I really like that. Then I would do some sort of other activity, probably 5, 6 p.m. and then do dinner with friends, followed by maybe board games with friends, and then like have like an hour of reading in bed before.
That's lovely.
That would be a pretty sick routine.
And achievable,
I can make that happen. Yeah, it's like very
that's
doable.
Literally, like how lucky, you know, that you can shape your life around what a perfect day looks like in your life.
It's insane.
It's awesome.
Like 100%. VV privilege. Okay. Rugmini says, how can one accept failure and move on in life?
I think time, firstly, is just amazing for accepting anything.
Yeah.
I bring back my classic Oxford rejection, which,
classic.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, I was rejected from Oxford University. And that was really tough for me at that time. But now that I look back, I'm so happy with my life, you know? I think, again, reframing what failure is. Failure is just productive. It's, you know, it's going on for like future success. It's just something you can learn from. And yeah, I think seeing it like almost like zooming out, like imagining yourself and then physically zooming out to see everything, your whole life, the entirety of the world, and then seeing this tiny thing that you've done is just really insignificant.
Very nice. And the final one we've got from Instagram is from Rohan, who says, describe life in 3 words.
Oh my God, I hate questions like this.
Same. I was just thinking, how the hell do you describe life in 3 words?
Life in 3 words? Oh my God. Fluctuating.
Okay, that's a good one.
You have to contribute one now.
Okay. Fun.
Oh no, can I change it?
Yeah.
Full of potential.
Full of potential.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
3 words, full of potential.
Full of potential, nice.
Potential for good, potential for bad, potential for amazing, incredible things. Just full of potential, that's what life is.
Fantastic. Great stuff. That seems like a good place to leave things. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We don't quite have a name yet. I think we're thinking of calling it just Deep Dive, which was the name that the old version was. But now we're getting
people voting on it.
Yeah. Going to get people to like design some logos for it and stuff. But this has been great. Guys, everyone get the book. Link in the video description if you want to check it out. And do you have like an email list or something for people in international territories?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Just we'll put a Google form or something. You can put your email address in if you want to find out more about this or something.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you later.